Follow the star. Now, we know that when I was growing up, that stars I knew of were movie stars and political people that were famous, sports stars, and they were the stars we were following. This is working now, isn't it? Okay, I'll turn that on. Okay?
No, that was Mr. Arms.
This one is the one? Okay. How's that? Is this me as I'm walking around? Is that?
Yeah, that works.
No, it's this one. Okay, thank you. So we looked at the stars, and I remember watching those black and white movies in the 50s. There's Bette Davis and all those people. And they were stars in black and white. And of course people wanted to emulate these people, and they still do. But isn't it interesting now how instead of calling them a star, because there are so many, they become superstars. And then megastars. I remember when I was at 3AW, one of the announcers wanted to interview Shirley Bassey. And her media manager said, look, Miss Bassey can only give you 3 minutes because she is a superstar. Well, I don't think she even got that. Not that she needed it. So, what have we done? We create these personalities that people are attracted to, but it's all on the outward stars, which are wonderful because they do create a sense of reverence in us. But our mind is also like a door that can swing in and out. We can look to the outer stars, or we can look inward for that inward star. So where are we putting our attention on that? Charles Fillmore writes in The Revealing Word, the star represents mankind's first awakening before we realise our Christ wisdom and power. It's a step on the way. Seeing that star is a step. It might even be the still small voice or intuition. It'll reveal itself to us in whichever way we know it. If we let our intellect override this light or star of intuition on our way, we may wander in the wilderness. Our thoughts take us in another direction from where our spirit really wants us to go. But eventually we're back on track because it's our destiny. And how many times have we not followed that inner star? Many, many times. And it's interesting how this was revealed to me only 2 days ago. I had this intuition. It reminded me of when I was driving along in Collingwood somewhere, and I didn't want to get on the Eastern Freeway. There was a little street I had to get to just before it. And something said, oh, look, that street. No, I don't think it's that street. But it was. They told me the directions, but it just didn't register with me. I kept going because I was on the freeway, which added another 20 minutes to the journey. Now, I thought of that. Now, on Thursday, when I went to have something done, this was prompting me all the time, thinking, why am I thinking about that? Well, I did the same darn thing. I didn't learn from that lesson. I thought, no, I know the way. It's not that way. It's easier to do this, that, but I knew, stick to the true way that you've been here 1,000 times, but I didn't. Another time, I remember coming out of the community radio station, I had a bundle of CDs. I couldn't be bothered putting them away properly, so it's somewhere in a bag, somewhere like this, and I thought, just be careful, you really should put them in a box or something, because as you go down the steps, they might all spill. I thought, no, the car's over there. So, of course, I came down the steps and they all fell in front of me. In front of the council staff and people that were paying their rates. And here I am bending down on my knee, picking up all these CDs. I didn't listen. I could have just as easily put it in a box. And I'm sure many of you here have had those experiences. You have, Norman? Okay. So that's what we have to do. And some people, when they learn about this in psychic circles, they're taught that the intuition will use something that's in your memory bank. It'll tell you something you know, and you think, now why am I thinking of that? And quite often that is a key to what is trying to come through intuition. Do you agree with that, Margaret? Anyway, acknowledging our inner Christ and intuition and listening for the still small voice, there's that term again, but putting it into action, which is the fifth unity principles. If we trust it, we'll do it. Now, the story of the birth of Jesus in the Bible is full of metaphysical symbolism. And like that little boy down there, that's how old I was when I went to Sunday school. How old is he?
15.
Oh, no, I was 3. Okay. But I remember going to Sunday school, and it was a pretty rowdy Sunday school, I can tell you. And we had some great teachers. And that's where I first heard of the 3 wise men. And we had a sand pit. Strange how you remember these things. And in these sand pit, I had the 3rd wise man. And we were taking it in turns to place it in front of each other to see who could get to the stable first. Well, it got a bit rowdy by the time we got closer and closer because I wanted to be the first. But no, it wasn't. But that's how I remember. Now that sticks out. I'm glad that happened because I now know that metaphysically there is a meaning to that. I love the 3 wise men Christmas cards. Anyone that knows me usually tries to find an unusual one to send to me. There's pompous ones, there's wise ones, there's theatrical ones, there's very biblical looking forbidden ones. But there's something about those characters that, intrigues me. Now, it's probably about the time of Advent, the wise men had made their way across the desert. Sometimes they're called astrologers, Magi, is that how you pronounce it? Magi, or whatever you call them, these wise men. And they set out on their journey to the east to follow the appearance of this auspicious star. Some say that the appearance of this star at that point of time was clearly to them a fulfillment of a Zoroastrian prophecy about the coming of a great deliverer. Now, tradition, and not the Bible, gives us the names of these men. They are Melchior, Caspar, and Balthazar. Very good, Sylvia. It's a bit like trying to name Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar. But the gifts they brought to the Christ child are listed in the Bible, and I've got a slide for those. There they are, you can almost see them. Gifts were gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Very auspicious and symbolic gifts. Gold. They brought to the Christ child a consciousness of the omnipresent riches of substance. Substance is the divine idea of the underlying reality of all things. I call it the underbelly of everything. It really is. And in the Lessons of Truth by H.M. Mulcahy, we talk about that quite a lot, especially in our last lessons, substance. And I've got a great affirmation which I've found. The rich substance of the kingdom of God is pouring its plenty perpetually into my mind and affairs, and I am in all ways prospered. That is a very, very powerful affirmation. Now, gold is a perfect symbol for the riches of spirit. And I remember thinking to myself when I was not too well off, sometimes we've been in that position where we think, now, how am I going to pay this bill? It's about 30 years ago, and I thought, no, this is crazy. I was in the city, and I walked up through Chinatown, and there was all these gold rings in the window. Fascinating. One of them was 500, which I suppose isn't much, but to me it was. So I'm staring at this beautiful ring in the window. Look, only a person like me would want this one. It had a little karate type symbol on it. And it was thick gold. And the man was in the window. He was looking out at me and he goes, ooh. And so I went in and I said, look, I love that ring. He said, yes, I can see that. He said, well, pay it off. And I thought, okay, I'll put $5 down. It took about 18 months, but isn't it interesting? It's a bit like that jar's going to be over there. It starts off slowly. Then you think, oh, I'm a third there, and you want to put more in. And when you get to halfway, you think, oh, let's get this over and done with. There's a $50 note. How am I doing? So this is how it works. You start with what you've got and give, and all of a sudden you want to give more, and eventually it happens. Well, this ring I had for a little while, and I lost this ring the day my father died. And Henry, dates are very auspicious, aren't they? He was born on the 11th of the 11th, 22, sorry, 11/11/22, and passed away on the 6th of the 6th, 88. Yeah, we had our moments. So what happened was I lost that ring for a year. I was cleaning up it all around the place to try and find it. Then I had a cardboard box. I was moving my music studio. I thought, I'll throw this stuff out. What is it? And there was something. Now I thought it was those gold things on cigars that they had been in the band. I thought, oh, throw it out. And then I stopped. That was the ring. Very auspicious. Gold. So I now know that gold represents the omnipresence of substance. And it's a perfect symbol for the riches of spirit. And I'll take this opportunity to remind us again of the fruits of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, and faith. That is prosperity. Now, frankincense. This is a fragrant gum resin, according to the dictionary. Metaphysically, it represents in us the transmutation of our material consciousness into the spiritual. Now, there's a saying, you can't get to heaven if you betray the earth. So while we've got a physical body, we have the joys and agonies that go with it. But we know that we are more than that. We need our physical body, and we need a bit of an ego to keep us going. But we have to control that, because we eventually know this body will wear out, but our spirit doesn't. And what we've accumulated will, as it says in the Bible, go to one of those places. In my Father's house are many mansions. Another level of consciousness on the way, which we'll be ready for. We may not need this body, but there'll be something there if it's required. So we're ever evolving. And Ernest Holmes writes, we see life from the long run of the journey of the soul. That's what Jesus talks about. My kingdom is not of this world. Great as our body is, it's still only a temporary vehicle for who we are, our expanding consciousness. Myrrh. An Aramaic gum again, used for a perfume, used for incense. Metaphysically, it represents, as I was just saying, the eternity of spirit. Then it goes on to say, an emblem of the resurrection. The revealing word says it well, the restoring of mind and body to their original undying state. The word resurrection also suggests that there has been a falling short of the divine standards. That's the end of the quote. Necessarily, we have to go through different periods and be resurrected again and again and again. A different aha moment until we finally get it. Through resurrection, we have become an inhabitant of here and now. A new heaven on earth, right here, wherever we are, because this is the only moment that we have. It's our consciousness. And we can reveal the fruits of the Spirit now, or if not, we'll take more journeys until we eventually, like the prodigal son says, look, I'm ready. And we take that next step. So perhaps the most important teaching from Matthew 2 is, I summarise it and says, wise men seek the Christ. Now, applied to ourselves, this means that we seek the Christ not in some far-off place. How tempting is it to think, oh, I'll find what I'm looking for in, I'm sure if I go to Machu Picchu, or some place in Tibet, or that beautiful convent that I see on the hill. How mystical these places are, how wonderful. But no, every part of earth is holy ground, and we are right honoured wherever we are. You agree with that, don't you? Good. So here we are at the centre of our being, Christ in you, the hope of glory. This is it. Now, did everyone see the star? And why were there just the three wise men that saw it? Well, the number 3, according to some numerology systems, is a number of completeness, or a process of state. We read that Jesus rose from the tomb on the 3rd day. Ernest Holmes wrote, man is a threefold principle of spirit, soul and body. And one of my ministerial topics was to work out how many types of trinities there were. And as many as I came up with, sure enough, there were more I hadn't thought of. Body, mind and spirit, you name them, you think about them. Now, did everyone in the Bible story see the star? No. King Herod didn't see it. Because Herod represents the ruling will of our physical ego, the sense consciousness. And what a wonderful consciousness that is. In this bounty of earth with all its wonders and beautiful experiences, we can think that's all there is. And if we've got the good life, we don't want it changed. Herod had the good life. So he wasn't interested in anything else, but he did get a bit concerned when he heard about the birth of Jesus, or the imminent birth of Jesus. His life was threatened, he thought. And we go further into the New Testament, where the rich young man speaks to Jesus and said, how can I attain eternal life? And Jesus asked him to give up all he had and follow him. Well, that man had a good life. He was okay. He didn't want to change. He had the riches, and we know there's nothing wrong with riches. But being attached to them is another thing. Well, until we bypass Herod, as did the wise men, until we take dominion of ourselves, we stay in the worldly consciousness. And it will be fun. But there comes a point where it all becomes too much. You think, oh God, another party, another anniversary. It's Christmas. It only seems like yesterday was Christmas. And I guarantee the first month of January, the Easter stuff's going to be out on the shops. And on and on and on. And we think, my goodness, how world weary do I find myself at times? A bit like that song, the Peggy Lee song. Is that all there is? I must get you to sing that one of these days because we know what it really means. But eventually, like the prodigal son, we say enough is enough. I'm going to wake up to who I really am, take dominion and move on. St. Paul writes, what can be seen is temporary, but what cannot be seen is eternal. And the most beautiful sights on earth are those that create a sense of reverence in us, a yearning for something to think, what is this feeling? Let's follow that feeling and go within. Now, I'll indulge you in a little poem I wrote when I was 16. There's a mountain behind our Sunday school church at Fairway, and it's Mount Montgomery. The mountain I did climb, I looked around and beyond to places near and far. A gentle cloud mist descended. No more could I view the beauty of nature's valleys and peaks, and the distant sun-glittering ocean. With nowhere to look, I closed my eyes as an eternal peace arose from within my being. Nature had veiled itself from my outward earthly gaze, and in so doing had unveiled an inner part of me. Now, I might say I've tweaked that a bit with more interesting words, but that was the guts of it at that particular time. And I've kept that poem for a while. I suppose those of you who do, and you go back to them from time to time, as our vocabulary expands and our life experience expands, so does what we do in life expand our consciousness. So how do we learn to move in? Now, I think I have a slide for that, Jim. There we are. We've been telling you about this forever. It's eternal lessons. Simple prayer and meditation, but to do them. Prayer simply is talking to God, meditation, listening. That still small voice inside us and putting it into action. We follow that light, that star. And you can see many traditions have thought that. Prayer is when the mind is one-pointed and man talks to infinity. Meditation is when the mind becomes totally clean and receptive, and infinity talks to man. There's one of Edgar Case's books up there on meditation, prayer and affirmations. I've come across that. And the top one from the People's Almanac. Prayer is when you talk to God. Meditation is when you listen to God. And St. Francis, make me an instrument of your peace, and we know the rest of it. You should know that by heart. So, prayer and meditation. Now, it takes time to regularly do this, and it can be boring, but we have to be disciplined with it if we want to move on. Because, Charles Fillmore says, the time is ripe for the advent of a new race, the advent of the spiritualized man and woman. So as we follow this inner light, we learn the universal spiritual laws, which is what we're here to learn about. We learn how to handle substance and each other in this physical world. This is what I enjoy talking about. The law of cause and effect. How to create abundance in all areas of our life. And it's not a new discovery, but it's an amazing discovery. The power of our thinking. It's no secret. It's been there forever. And most of all, giving and receiving, and the golden rule. We love one another and do unto others. Now, what tremendous gifts await us when we follow that inner light, that inner star. We accept the full power and our own indwelling divinity. So as we approach Christmas, we do so with the conscious realization of the birth of the indwelling Christ within us. So be it. Thank you.